Okay, so first thing in the morning, you take a 5 mile walk, and then you're back at your desk about what time?
So let's see. So we actually meet up to walk by about 5:45, 6 o'clock. I'm back writing by a little after 7 because we power walk. Oh my goodness, we do not. Uh, we do not walk slowly. So we power walk. So I'm back by about 7:15 writing. Um, and then I'm up at my desk up here by about 9:15. Sometimes earlier, depending on whether my computer's calling me. Um, so
So
yeah, so
roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours. You've got your coffee, and that's hard writing time. What does a successful writing day look like?
I would like to say that's hard writing time and that I don't get distracted by anything, but let's say I get an actual hour in, because my dogs are, I say that they need a walk, my daughter will call, something happens, but let's say I get an hour hard writing time. So 4 pages a day is what I aim for. And that's usually my quota, and I usually make it. It really depends. I've been working on an epic fantasy recently, and that takes a lot more um, out of me. And so usually my quota on that tends to be more like 3 pages. So I'm not quite getting the quota that I was on my suspense or my urban fantasy. There's just a lot more pieces in play. I've actually got a lot more viewpoints in that. Um, and so it's not going as quickly, but it's I think going to be amazing. I hope. I think we'll see. We'll see.
I feel that about every project I'm working on. This is going to be amazing, and then I get close to the end, like this is the worst thing ever, and then I revise it a few times. Oh, it's pretty good,
Right.
and I haven't written a bad one yet, to the best of my knowledge. So there.
Right.
Do you feel something similar?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. So I go from this is the best thing I've ever done to, oh my goodness, what was I doing in this section? And then you fix that section, you're like, oh, it's amazing now, it's amazing. And then you get to the next section where you're like, I don't even know what I was trying to say here. And then you fix that section, and then it's so I'm in that revision process where it's a roller coaster. And I so I'm in that revision process where parts of it are amazing, and I'm sure it's the best thing I've ever done. And it's, everything you've done is the most significant thing you've ever done. So this is certainly the most significant, ambitious thing that I've ever done, and it's really meaningful to me on a lot of levels. And then I'll get to a part where I'm like, what was I even doing that day? Had I not had my coffee? Like, what? Um, so I'm hoping to get to the part where I feel like somebody else must have written it because it's that good. You know how you feel that way about yourself sometimes. So I'm hoping that I will get to that stage with this book. You know that stage.
I do. There's so many. It's like the grief process and five other processes combined. Writing a novel, it's just different stages. But I would think that going through them yourself on such a regular basis makes you an ideal advocate for authors as an agent, because you know the experience, not one for one, but you can closely identify with the different emotions and the highs and lows that go in with composing a manuscript.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope it does, and I think it makes me a better editor when I get to working on my author's manuscripts. I think it helps me not just tell them, hey, there's something wrong here, but I think it helps me identify sometimes, what it is and how they can, and give them productive suggestions for it, not just say, hey, this is wrong. Hopefully I can come in and give them suggestions. I think one of my strengths as an agent, though, is that I really can identify with the anxiety that comes with being an author, and can really support my authors in that, and translate sometimes anxiety speak when I'm talking to the editors and when I'm talking with the authors, and put their fears to rest, and really understand where they're coming from on all of that. And I know that some of my authors, when they're talking, are really coming from such a place of not having the power over their all aspects of what they're doing, and not being able to see all aspects of the process. And so being able to walk them through that, or translate everything it is that they're seeing or not seeing for them, and being able, to the best of my ability, to alleviate their anxiety. You can never alleviate it entirely, especially we all have so much anxiety. It's the whole imposter syndrome that goes into being an author. We all have that. It's so funny, as writers, you have to have that kind of confidence and kind of hubris that you're writing something that is good enough, wonderful enough, that the world is going to want to see it and hear it and read it, while at the same time that horrible fear that gnaws at your stomach that it's not good enough, that people are going to criticize you, come after you, not understand, not love, all of that. So you've got those two conflicting things. But in any case, hopefully doing the very best I can to make it a gentle experience for writers, and to not have those two sides quite as so much at odds with each other.
And then people get annoyed when authors, for periods of time, develop a bit of an ego problem or a self-esteem problem. But just look at it objectively, of course. That just goes with the territory.
Right. It does. It does. And it can be a tough thing to navigate. It really can. And some do it better than others.
Well, hopefully with practice, we're all improving. So I'm fascinated by this idea that after 9:15, it's time to agent. So the book goes away, and do you aim for a word count? How do you know you've had a successful writing day that you can put it to bed until tomorrow?
Well, I kind of can't help but put it to bed till tomorrow, because I have so much to do, and I will have my work hours are sacrosanct. Like I can't write during work hours. I just have too much to do anyway. I have over 40 authors, so I don't have any choice in that. I'm just too busy. Um, so a successful writing day to me is really any day that I've gotten work done on the manuscript. You can't necessarily go by strict word count, especially to me, especially while I'm working on the epic fantasy, which, like I said, has so much in place, because sometimes I might have just solved a plot issue or a world building issue, or whose point of view am I going to be telling this next scene in or chapter in, and I've gotten started on that voice, and I've set myself up for success tomorrow. So if you have just a strict word count, it's different for every author. Some have to work on strict word count, or whatever. So whatever works for you, it works for you. For me, if I did that, I would make myself crazy. I can't do that. I can't set myself a strict word count. And sometimes I tell myself I'll make it up on the weekend or things like that. I know when I was really behind, I did 3 months almost NaNoWriMo style, except not really, because I couldn't hit 50,000 words. This, for me, NaNoWriMo style was, I was not going to go back. I was not going to worry about anything. I was not going to edit anything. I was just going to full steam ahead, which is what I try to do anyway. But it's just extra hard when you're writing, epic fantasy, especially when you have to go back and get different pieces in play. When you're writing urban fantasy, or at least my urban fantasies like the Vamp series or the Latter-day Olympian series, they were all from one viewpoint. So I didn't have to worry about whose viewpoint which scene was in, or how many viewpoints I had, or whether I was in this kingdom or this kingdom at a given time. Things that I have to worry about with the epic fantasy. So it was easier to just go full steam ahead and not have to go back or decide that I had taken the wrong trail and I had to backtrack and fix it. So a good day for me is just a day when I have figured something out. If I had to stare at my computer for an hour to figure it out, and I figured it out, that was a good day. So the goalpost moves depending on what novel I'm working on and what kind of novel I'm working on. And I had to learn that with the epic fantasy, because at first I was really beating myself up a little bit, because I wasn't making the same kind of progress, and I just had to realize that my process was different. The epic fantasy, I hadn't had percolating in my brain for 2 years. Like most of my books, by the time I get to write them, I had been writing something else, and I'd had contracts and deadlines. And by the time I got to write them, they had been in my brain for 2 years. And the epic fantasy came to me almost like Athena from the head of Zeus. It was just fully formed, almost, except that it wasn't, except that there was still so much to figure out. And I just wasn't giving myself, I wasn't doing myself a kindness that I would do anybody else, and letting my process be my process. I was really beating myself up for not having everything perfectly figured out. And I realized it just hadn't had those 2 years to percolate. And that's in some ways. In other ways, this fantasy had been building my entire life, because the magic system and some of my thoughts about religion and some of my thoughts about some of the characters and some of what I'm dealing with gender and things like that have been really building in me for quite some time and bursting out of me. And I think that's why the novel had, again, jumped out like Athena from the head of Zeus. And I think why I just wanted to rush it onto the page, because it was so momentous for me. But I still had so much to figure out and so much to learn. And so I've been learning it, and it's really, I think, going to be amazing. I just feel such a sense of responsibility to get it right. And I realize that that's all just coming from me. But I've always been such a type A personality and such a, I have to get it right, that I'm putting all this burden on myself. Like early on in my writing career, I always thought, well, I would reject me. And so I didn't let anybody see my work because I wasn't good enough for myself. And so writers out there, if I've ever said no to you or anything else, I've said no to myself many, many times over. So really, I got there, you'll get there. Know that about the process. But anyway, that's the burden I'm putting on myself. And I am hopefully going to get there with this novel, because it means so much to me and says so much about what I feel about the world and everything. And it's just, I'm sorry, I'm going on and on, but this is something that means very much to me. And I had to learn a new process and be okay with that.
No long answers are welcome here, because then we get insights that I'm not clever enough to ask the question. So that's a gimme.